laughing and talking and joking after eating as much as before eating. And if at all we have to make a coughing after eating, let it not be a suffocation. These are the few principles he has given under art of eating. And then in your daily meals, avoid too much of spicy and sharp foods. If you go into the kitchen and observe how Krishnamacharya eats, it is full of spices. He says, control it. I am just now trying to do it. And control all alcoholic liquors. Don't use them to get your foods digested. So let Krishnamacharya not learn from the accident these things. Because he is already having spices. These two things should be reduced. And let the spices be rarely used. And they can be used when there is a very strong and heavy food. The next thing he advises is, a cooked food should be utilized only before 3 hours after cooking. Never eat it after 3 hours. Never eat it after 3 hours after cooking. So we can add to it also, do not eat foods warmed a second time and a third time. We can also add, do not eat foods that are preserved in a fridge and then warmed once again. And another thing is, if something turns acidic by preservation, don't use it then. But if I speak of one thing in Germany, I have to run away, all people kick me. That one sacred thing is called beer. So don't use things that are made sour by preservation. That is what he advises. And next advice he gives is, there are two types of pressures to a human constitution called urges, the physical urges and the mental urges. Be careful not to suppress either physical or mental urges, and not to control physical urges, but to control mental urges. Let this be your formula. For example, if we are too busy, we postpone urination and stool because we have more important things to do. We are too busy. He says, don't do it, because it is with your body you are working, and it is a poor beast that is rendering you service. And don't be unfaithful to the poor beast of your body. It has its own urges. Let the urges not be postponed. Every attempt leads to a diseased condition which is very difficult to cure. And then he goes into the description of the diseases produced by a frequent postponing of urination and stool and sleep and coughing, sneezing, yawning, all these things, and belching, because always they are adjustments of the constitution. They are the needs and necessities of this vehicle, and there is more common sense in them than our foolish concept of etiquette and company. If there is an urge to sneeze, that means the constitution is trying to throw something out which is dangerous. And thinking that it is unpolite, if you do like that, you are more unpolite to a faithful servant of yours, which will be shattered and broken soon. For example, if there is something wrong with our food or drink, there will be a sound, don't cock it. And sometimes when there is a need for a violent adjustment, the diaphragm moves like that, and that is what we call hiccup, like that. Don't control, suppress it. Its needs are more genuine than your foolish ideas of politeness. That is what the master says. Excuse me if there is something unpolite in it. And then about mental urges. Suddenly an urge for sex comes. Suddenly a fine idea comes that this evening we should go to the Chinese restaurant and eat. Then call the fellow, calmly call the fellow to you. Who is the fellow? The fellow who is smiling and saying he. The horse which we call the mind, and them have something and control it. And then get upon the horse. Let it take you to the place where you want. Let it not take you to a place where it wants. So let the mental urges be controlled. Ask the fellow, my dear brother, this is not the time, wait. Convince the fellow and then be busy with your own work. Let this be one formula, he says. So once again, let the physical urges be not controlled and let the mental urges be controlled. This is the formula. And then he advises a few things about social life. One more thing which I repeated yesterday. Try to maintain a pleasant and merry mood while you are eating and drinking. If one fellow in the family is having horrible complexes with others, don't sit together and eat with great tension. Go to the Chinese restaurant and eat. Let each fellow eat his own karma separately. Unless one is jolly and happy-minded with other fellow, don't join a party of eating, because eating is also described as a sacred ritual in Ayurveda. What is the instruction in the ritual halls of Freemasonry, etc.? If two members of the ritual hall are at loggerheads with each other, like two cocks or two buffaloes, let them clear off their differences before they enter the temple. Same thing with food also. The ritual of eating is more true and operative than our Freemasonry, which is only speculative. Therefore, let the ritual be conducted properly. Then a few words about social life and sociology. Practice the art of greeting everyone you meet. Don't expect that the other person should greet first and then you greet. Very much wish that you be the first man to greet others. Let there be a free flow of vital currents. Let there be a more free circulation in you. If you want to test if the other man greets you or not, then you are creating a block to your etheric current, which is detrimental to yours. And let you be the first one to smile to the other person. Don't wait until the other person smiles. Let you be the first one to begin the conversation. This is one fine thing that Ayurveda teaches. And the master says, every time you make such an attempt, there will be a free and comfortable and uniform distribution of etheric currents in your vehicle. And of course, he says, greet and do namaskar for others, which is the Indian way of doing. Every nation can have its own greeting. For example, you can shake hands. Let there be a hearty expansion at every situation. That is what he means. 4 things multiply in him. That is, there will be an increase of his span of life. A more free inflow of education and information into him, and a more brilliance of his popularity, That is, he is known and about him will be spoken in more and more places. And there will be more strength and resistance inside and in the environment also. This is what he says. It is a wonderful sentence. Ayur Vidya Yasho Balam. That is what he gives. Ayur means span of life. Vidya means education. Yasho means fame. That is popularity. Balam means strength, power and resistance. These four things increase uniformly to those who greet first and to those who smile first and who start the conversation first with others. I personally believe there is a deep and profound truth in this statement. The next thing he advises us is develop truthfulness as an attitude. Not only truth speaking, it is not enough to practice only truth speaking. You should practice truthfulness as an attitude of life. That is, truth in behavior. And while speaking truth, you need not insult anyone. And you have no right to insult anyone in your way of speaking truth. And then he says, speak truth and speak agreeably and palatably. Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat. Satyam means truth. Priyam means sweet and palatable. And do not speak truth unpalatably. And do not speak falsehood for palatability. Let this be the standard of your conversation. This is what he says. And again he says, smile and make others smile. And while doing so, if no one is insulted, then that is the art of living. This is the next statement. After 5 minutes pause, we will continue what he says. And then a part of yoga practice is also included in the Ayurvedic text. Chronologically speaking, the eightfold yoga path of Patanjali and Bhagavad Gita belong to a later date than Ayurveda, and the whole of the eightfold path of yoga is borrowed from Ayurveda into an independent science afterwards. So, a bit of physical exercises which we call asanas and a process of self-massaging with a little oil every morning before taking a bath is recommended in Ayurveda. And while taking a bath, there is always an invocation to the devas of water and air. And while before starting eating, there is an invocation to the devas of eating. Like this, there is a frequent communication set up between the Deva kingdom and the human kingdom in the Ayurveda. Another thing, there is a process of undergoing a course once in every 4 months. In those days, there used to be 10 days of vacation once in every 4 months. And all people of active professions used to utilize the vacation to lubricate the body, to submit the body to such a process that is similar to our servicing of car in the workshop and garage. That peculiar process is called Rasayana in Ayurveda. And there is a 4 monthly process. There is an annual process. And there is a process to be done once in 12 years. This process, I will give only one example. We are expected to take daily oil bath and regulate our food, eliminate many of the cooked foods at all, and maintain mostly on uncooked and fresh materials, and free of fats and oil, and a few items compulsory. The one is the fresh juice of sugar cane. Sugar cane. Yes. There is a plant called sugar cane. You will get this plant in tropical countries. We have to find a substitute in the colder countries. Since the masters of Ayurveda belong to the tropical countries, they described many of the plants and vegetables of the tropical countries. We have to conduct a little bit of research and find substitutes from the Occident. It's not very difficult if we understand the basic principles of Ayurveda and trying to understand the common sense they used behind these principles. And during the season of mangoes, a 10 days period should include a daily use of mango. Two types of fresh mango. One is called green mango, which is not ripe. The other is called yellow mango, that is ripe. Both should be daily utilized during those 10 days. And during the same season, we should use the flower of a tree in India, which we call Margosa tree. In the botanical nomenclature, you can find it under the name Azardicrata indica. That's okay. In South India, we find this tree in plenty, and in the compounds, we special in the compounds around the houses, we specially grow this tree because the very air that blows through this tree is highly healthy, health-giving and hygienic. And a point of interest here, my father was a grandmaster of Ayurveda who had made miracle cures of many so-called incurable diseases and taught Ayurveda to many people of his generation. I too learnt Ayurveda at his feet, and he has made miracle cures with the help of this plant without any medicine. A girl of 13 years was declared in the sanatorium as having an incurable disease of primary complex. It is, in India it is called primary complex. I think it can be called infantile pulmonary tuberculosis. In some countries it is called infantile pulmonary phthisis. And the girl was declared incurable. It was just beginning stage of the lung undergoing changes. The process of fibrosis was in its initial stage. And my father prescribed a peculiar treatment. In the morning, the girl was bathed and taken to a garden of Margosa trees. He was kept there under the shade of these trees until sunset. Her eating and drinking everything only under the trees. Just before sunset, she was sent home. And it was an 8-month process of treatment, after which once again the girl was tested by experts of tuberculosis and declared cured. And now she is a mother of 4 children, exactly of my age. This incident happened in my childhood. There are many such cures conducted by my father with the help of this tree. And the people of village where there is plenty of this tree, every morning we go to the tree, we take a small stick, fresh from the tree,
and then slice,
and with our tooth we make a brush of it, and then we clean our teeth with that brush. And people in the cities where it is not so much available, we gather the leaves of this tree and get them dried and powdered, and then we use it as tooth powder. So the flower of this tree is to be eaten daily during those 10 days. So the flower of this tree, and then sugarcane juice, and then green mango and yellow mango, and daily oil bath. This is the process prescribed during those 10 days in the junction season, which is called the rise of the year. That is the new moon immediately after March 21st. 10 days before that day, we are expected to do this ritual. Similar rituals we have during the month beginning from July 22nd and November 21st. These three are called the junctions of the year in Ayurveda, and there will be drastic seasonal changes and climatic changes during these days, and we are expected to help the constitution and cooperate with it so that it can get adjusted to the changes every year. This is one feature in Ayurveda. And coming to certain types of remedies that give miraculous cure, I will give you a few examples. You can try. You know a disease called migraine. In some countries it is called migraine. Generally it is called, non-technically it is called headache. By whatever name we call it, it is a challenging disease against the classical system of medicine. We have no treatment against this disease except the veterinary use of aspirin daily. But here is a process. At night, you take a silver container, fill it with milk. One difficulty in the Occident is not cow milk. You should get the milk of one fellow, whom we call buffalo. One gentleman asked me in Belgium, what is buffalo?